A series of photographic images have been discovered on the internet, no less on NASA's own website. Over the past few years, Major David Toon has inspected over 3 million photographic images taken by NASA's Solar Dynamics Observatory satellite, the Solar Terrestrial Relations Observatory and European Space Agency, Solo Heliospheric Observatory satellite. And of those, he's picked out 40,000 images that one could only surmise look suspiciously like spacecraft. David is a retired US Army aviation officer, former helicopter pilot, combat veteran and contractor in Iraq and Afghanistan, and a former staff sergeant in US Army intelligence. And he's also a MUFON field investigator. He contends that scattered throughout NASA's solar satellite archives are images that may offer proof that we are not alone in the universe. David, welcome.
Hi, Dean. How are you?
I'm pretty good. So in a nutshell, explain exactly what you're doing.
Well, I have serendipitously stumbled onto the archives that NASA offers up for anybody on the web, specifically the solar satellite archives. And I had come across some interesting images while I was attending Embry-Riddle Aeronautics University, and took them to some of the professors who are quite versed in astronomy, and asked them if I was seeing the right things, or were these suspicious things suspicious to them. I didn't know what I was saying because it wasn't my field. At the time, I was getting a degree in unmanned aircraft systems. And they were kind enough to pat me on the head and say, well, some of this is cosmic rays and some of this is camera artifacts. But one or two of them made them hesitate. And I said, okay, I'll be back. And so I went back into the archives and started looking at other images and started narrowing my search criteria for those things that were not camera artifacts, that were not cosmic rays. And as it turns out, there are quite a few suspicious images on the NASA archives site that need further investigation. So I've been collecting those ever since. And that was the last 5 years now.
Yeah. And before we look at those, I just want to know exactly what made you go on the NASA website in the first place. I mean, you didn't go on there looking for these images.
I did not. That is correct. It's a funny story. I was about to go to class in 2015. I think it was January, first week of January. And here in Florida, it rains a lot. And sometimes you got to check the weather radars to see if you're going to need an umbrella. That's what I did. And when I opened up the radar loop, it turns out the radar picture for the state of Florida was completely clear. And when it went through the 4-hour loop, 5 concentric circles of clouds hit Florida all at once within the loop. As a pilot of 17 years, I've studied weather because my life depended on it. And I know cloud formations pretty well. And when you have looked like microbursts, but actually 50 to 100 mile rings hitting a state all at the same time, I thought this is a very unusual weather event. Not being able to make sense of it for local weather, I decided to look at spaceweather.com because I figured it had to be solar driven, or something from space may have driven these concentric rings of clouds to hit our state. And when I went to spaceweather.com, they have loops for the day's worth of solar satellite imagery as well. So I watched a full day's worth of images, which I believe is like 96 images for a 24-hour period. And when they flip through, you see all the little sparkles and the cosmic rays and the stars and things like that. And the sun's right in the middle. And during that loop period, I'm looking for maybe a CME event, some type of mass ejection from the sun that may have hit us. Well, I didn't see that, but I did see strange shapes around the sun flashing through on the 96 images that were looping. And when I stopped the loop and went through the images one by one, that's when I started discovering these unusual shapes that didn't seem to be a natural phenomenon. And that's what started me asking questions and going to the astronomy department upstairs.
Mhm. Well, I must admit, I could probably gauge your initial reaction. It might have been something like, my gosh, I think I found the Holy Grail.
Well, initially, until my first meeting, the professors were very kind and gentle, knowing that I was a undergrad at the time and I needed more research and to be exposed to more information dealing with space imagery because I was not familiar at all. And so instead of discouraging me, they encouraged me to continue looking, but they kept refining my knowledge base with better data. So I wasn't scaring myself with natural phenomena.
Mhm.
And with enough new information and unexplainable information, that's when I really started getting interested in what I was doing. And quite frankly, it it didn't really hit me for about a year until I came across an image that absolutely could not be explained by any of my friends, any of the professors, anybody. And then I realized I was on the right trail, looking at the right things.
Well, we know how NASA is very, very guarded on releasing anything that might look suspicious and get people
Yes.
talking. So, why are these images public? I mean, can anyone access them?
Oh, sure. If you go to the SDO Solar Dynamic Observatory website or the SOHO website or the Stereo, any NASA website will have an archive section to it. And you can either go and look for the movies of the day or images of the day. And then there's a deeper dive into some of the archives that are just by every 15 minutes. You can see the image that's pulled. Now, these are at a cadence that maybe 15 minutes at a time, where in fact the solar satellites are pulling down imagery in much greater speeds than that. They archive them in different universities that I know of. Stanford's one of them. And you can ask for a whole day's worth of images. It won't be 96, it'll be closer to 800. So you can see more refined details if you needed to time-wise. But what's open to the public is plenty. It'll take you a lifetime to go through what they already have.
Mhm.
My intent was to get a good ratio for how many images I had to go through to the images that are worthy of reinvestigation, to show just how much data NASA has on the internet accessible to everybody for people to do their own research. And it's been a fun find.
Yeah, I'm sure it has. Do you get any pushback from NASA?
They don't know I'm doing it.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I haven't asked anybody from NASA. I'm not sure I want to right now, but they've been very kind when the sites go down and they tell me when they're coming back up and that sort of thing, or if I needed extra data from Stanford, they're willing to help. What I'm doing is just a hobby because my background is more in aviation than it is in astronomy. But at this point, I've got enough data where it's worth putting out to the public now and for people to do a second look and their own research to see if this really is valid and worthy of further investigation by the industry.
So, can you now definitively say that we're not alone?
No, I can't say that. I can definitively say I am seeing structures within the field of view of these solar satellite systems that can't be explained. Unfortunately, there's no way to be 100% definitive, but I have enough photographic proof that when I share it with others, everybody comes to the same conclusion. So in that regard, clinically, if I did a clinical study, I could give better odds and possibilities. It's still up to the researcher, and it is a qualitative analysis of which it took me a lot of time to put into a quantitative analysis for one of my research papers I did at Embry-Riddle. But even at that, conclusions for something this massive and this vast is really hard to say at 100%. But in my own life, I'm at 99%.
Yep.